Welcome, 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 everyone. Back to another outstanding episode of Spokespeople Podcast. I am your co-host, Dave, with our other co-host.
Also Dave.
There you have it, people. Your two favorite Daves. Nothing like your favorite double Ds to get up every morning and
Two
see,
days,
right?
no waiting. That's what I always say.
Exactly.
We're going to get
no waiting.
T-shirts that say the same exact
Right?
thing. Yes.
You know, unless you're like a complete dork and it's like someone thinks it's like D&D.
We
But
should
I
have
actually
those-
liked that game as a kid, so I'm not going to knock that
Dungeons
too much.
and Dragons was an excellent drinking game.
It really was, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, what else do you
A
use
lot
those
of good
dice for?
parties in high school started out that way.
I know, man. It's like a 20-sided dice. Okay,
Oh, my
you got
God.
20 drinks.
So good. It was
You
so
roll a 20.
crazy.
Yeah,
It
it's
was
a lot
so
of fun.
crazy.
So we want to welcome everybody back. Let's do a little bit of a recap because this is going to be episode 7 here at the Spokespeople Podcast. And we've had some great shows so far. Last week, James Christ came from NOS, Nebraska Off-Road Series. Thought it was had a great
I
time
remember
talking
that
with
one.
him.
I was here.
You were here for that one.
That was
It was the
nice.
one before where you had a brown bottle flu diagnosis.
No, I was actually sick.
Last time you said it was brown bottle flu.
No, you said that.
No, we have this recorded, right? Right, and it's been published, right? So everybody go listen to episode 6,
No.
and that's with James Christ, and see if he says brown bottle flu before I do.
No.
And then
I had the fever.
whoever has the right answer, send us an email at info@thebikeway.com.
Free sticker.
And anyone who answers correctly, we will put your address in there. I will send you a free Bikeway window sticker for that.
There you go. I told
Okay.
you, free sticker. Also free promo for our main sponsor.
Our main sponsor, the Bikeway.
There you go.
Right, 25 years in the Metro Omaha area, servicing everything you guys need.
You just
so
gotta put
come
that
and
in
check
there.
them out. Well, I had to throw it in there,
There you
right?
go.
I'm a capitalist.
There you go.
So the other thing is
Mm-hmm.
that we like to throw out as well is that before that we had a couple other episodes that we wanted everyone to kind of watch. We talked with some people from NICA. We've talked with Bike with Mike Day and Tom, and we talked with Bran. We talked with the Calvin Crest race,
Yeah.
Or not the Calvin Crest race, I'm sorry. It was the Louisville Gravel Grinder.
Louisville Gravel
Yeah.
Grinder with Brad Oldfield.
Yeah.
Super cool dude.
Yeah,
Nice beard.
absolutely. So we've had some good shows. And today, though,
Some very good shows.
This is going to be an annual event. And so I want to get everyone kind of prepped for that. This is going to be the annual pre-prep for the Tour de France. Now, you have to say that in a way it sounds like you're hocking a loogie in the
It's
back, I think.
Le Tour de France.
Le Tour de France.
You don't have to say it like that. That's,
Yeah, I think it just gives it
No.
more. It's the ambiance.
no.
It just sounds so much better.
Don't say ambiance, dude. Seriously.
Ambiance. So to do this, we had to bring someone in who is an expert. Now, everybody knows that our co-host Dave is an expert at all things, and that what she does not know, we just do not know. So therefore,
It's unknowable.
we thought we would bring someone in who would. It's unknowable. There's some truth in that. So what we thought we would do is we'd bring in someone who has a very, very long history within the cycle industry, and I'm really happy to introduce Troy Tellinghuisen. And did I say that right, Troy?
Yes, you did.
Okay. See, it's a long German name, and I just wanted to make sure I got that right. So, Troy, thank you for coming in today. I really appreciate you being here.
Well, thanks for having me. Love the studio. Nice job.
Thank you. You guys see astronaut Bob on the wall. Everybody loves Bob. He spells it backward to be unique.
Did you know Bob is a palindrome?
I just said he likes to spell it backwards to be unique. It was kind of indicating that, but thanks for the clarity. I appreciate it.
I'm an English major, dude. I
and
got to
I
throw those big words out
appreciate
there. Yeah.
Yeah. So, Troy, once again, thank you for coming in. Really appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
You kind of have a good background of this, but the first thing we always like to do is we like to ask people, what's your story? What got you into cycling and the biking world, the cycling world?
Well, I grew up in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, and after high school, I got met some people that I became friends with that were mountain bikers, and this was 1986, and they told me I should go buy a bike so we could ride together, so I did. Went out and bought my first mountain bike, and
What kind was it?
it was a hard rock,
Oh, yeah.
specialized hard rock, rigid, a decent bike. They had a better reputation back then. But spent a lot of time riding with them in Sioux Falls and just really loved it. 86 is when I bought that, which is the same year that Greg LeMond won the Tour and had started to kind of pay attention to that was about the only race back then that you could get information on with, how.
Remember following that in the newspaper by reading?
Yes, I do.
That was every day you'd read the newspaper to see
what happened.
Where's Lamont?
What happened?
Right.
Greg LeMond is what got me into cycling. I mean, it was that time. Yeah, he was a stud.
So just really liked riding, and just kept riding, pretty much my whole life.
Okay. And so, but you've done a lot. You've done a lot of like event planning and stuff for races and things like that through the years too.
Yeah. So when I lived in Des Moines, there was a couple guys at the Toyota dealership that I worked at who were also into riding. We said, hey, this would be a great idea to form a team and go out and do some mountain bike races. First race we ran across was called Frost Bike Series, and there was one race in January, one in February, and one in March. So you can imagine weather conditions at that time.
Yeah.
But we showed up with a team of 6 people and raced and loved it. And a bunch of those guys are still racing in Iowa, but we formed a team and had a team over there for 10 years. Other things we did, we thought it would be fun to go to a 24-hour race, and the best way to attend a 24-hour race is put it on yourself.
Right.
So we started the 24-hour race at Seven Oaks in Boone, Iowa, and that went for 10 years. That was kind of a fad, 24-hour races were
12 and 24 got real popular.
Yep.
Like 90s, I guess.
Yep. And then they kind of disappeared, and a lot of it switched over to gravel. And then a friend of mine, Thad Neal, and myself also started the Iowa Mountain Bike Championship Series. Sat down one day with a notepad and sketched out what we thought a series should look like. And that actually lasted 20 years. This is the first year that series wasn't held.
Okay.
When we went to Seven Oaks and wanted to talk to them about building a trail to do a 24-hour race, at that time they had about 2 miles, and we built the trail up to 8.5 miles of single track.
Oh, wow. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it is.
Yep. So it took us 2 years. The first year of the 24-hour race was a little light because it was only about a 4 mile, and for some people that got a little boring. But by the second year, we're up to the full 8 miles plus.
What kind of terrain is that? I mean, under the tires, like dirt, rocks, what?
So there's a gentleman by the name of Cam Kirkpatrick that said...
I've heard that name, yeah.
Yep, from Des Moines. And Cam said it's like racing on peanut butter when it's wet. So it's not real rocky, it's more dirt soil. It is at a ski hill, so it's a lot of short, hard, tough climbs for Iowa.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, not a lot of mountains in Iowa.
Nope.
I get it. We don't have a lot of mountains in Nebraska either. So
The first mountain bike race I ever did was at what used to be called Nebraska.
yeah.
Yeah. And so in the summer, they let us use that and made a mountain bike course out of it. So, no mountains,
Right.
but,
Did they let you use the lift?
No, the lift was off, but we rode underneath the lift. The lift was just T-bars, by the way. I don't know if you know what a T-bar is.
Yeah, no, I do.
And they weren't even really T-bars. It was just a rope and what looks like a button, and you put it between your legs.
Yeah.
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 Or they had T-bars, which is more like an L, but yeah.
You just grab it and it pulls you up the mountain.
You put it behind your legs.
Yeah, you put it right, and you kind of sit on it a little bit.
A little
against
bit,
it.
yeah.
Yep. Thank God for the lifts these days.
Oh, man.
So
way different.
We're talking the tour today. Brought you in. It's a big thing for you. You're big on the tour. Tour de France is kind of, as everyone is sitting here, is kind of one of those things that kind of got a lot of us into, really kind of paying attention because it was the only thing we could get when we were first starting out back in the 80s. Right. And Greg LeMond was the first American, right? So he motivated a lot of us, to get out and ride.
He wasn't the first American to do the tour, but he was the first American to do
win
well.
Yeah, he was the first one to win it.
Yeah, well, not just that, but he was doing well in 83 also.
He was
I think 84 was his first
a great climber. He was a really good climber.
Great all-around, powerful rider for somebody his size was.
Yeah. But he was just fun to watch, and so everybody got really excited about it. It drew a lot of attention, and it attracted the crowds.
As a 15-year-old, LeMond used to beat American pros in criterium races.
It doesn't surprise me a bit. The guy's quads are as big as waste. I mean, he was a beast. He was an absolute beast.
Unbelievable VO2 max. Probably one of the best ever.
Yeah. And then he got shot by his brother-in-law.
Well, you know,
The 86 Tour, didn't he win that on a sprint?
I think he did.
Yeah, so I mean, he was a great climber, but I believe
He won it in a sprint.
he won it on a sprint.
I don't think so. He and Eno were going back and forth, trading the yellow jersey in the latter stages, and then I think Lamond actually bested Eno in one of the last time trials, and then the team said, "Okay, we're going to fully support you now."
Yep.
But Bernard Eno, Lamond helped
Yeah.
Eno win in '85. I mean, the manager, I think, is Paul Coakley at the time. He pulled Greg off of a breakaway. He had put 10 minutes in one stage on Eno in the '85 Tour, and they called him back in the car, and Lamond like cried
I remember
because
reading about that.
he would have won the '85 Tour, and so Eno's like, I'm gonna support you next year, and then here it comes '86. Eno just kind of didn't really do what he said he was going to do, and he just made Lamond show everyone who was really the best, and it was Greg Lamond.
Go.
Yeah, and you are right. It wasn't a sprint. It was a time trial.
Yeah.
Wow. There seemed to be like a little bit of friction between those two at the last 2 years for sure.
Yeah. There's
Because I think Lamond should have actually technically won it in '85, and he
easily,
stepped
he
back
could have.
behind his teammate.
Absolutely. There's a great show. I'm not sure if it's on one of those 30 for 30, but it's called The Badger, and it something The Badger, and it's about Lamond and Eno, and they talked to him, I think like 2 years ago, and to this day, denies doing what he actually did in the '86 Tour, which is take back his support.
Wow.
He says
I have to watch that.
It's great. He just says he was making sure Lamond was worthy.
Have you watched that ESPN 30/30 special on on Lance Armstrong?
Dave, we're not talking about that one, man. Come on.
I know.
No, I'm not. I'm not doing that.
I know. That's why I wanted to throw that at you.
No, it's fun. It's funny. It's funny.
So I had to throw. I couldn't. That was low hanging fruit. I had to throw that one out.
It is.
So for everyone to know, in 1903, the Tour de France was first started. But do you know why they started the Tour de France?
I think it was just for publicity for the newspaper.
Very good, Dave. Very, very good. What was the name of that newspaper?
Troy, do you remember?
I do not remember.
Was it
that.
the Telegraph?
Le Auto Velo.
Oh, that's right. Le Otto. Yeah.
Le Auto Velo.
Yeah, there you go.
So almost sounds Italian a little bit, but it was for a newspaper. They wanted to increase their publication, so they started doing it. And they had a race every single year, except during the war years in World War II, right? And every single year it ends in Paris, except this year. So let's talk about that a little bit of a course change for them.
Yes. So that last day is actually a time trial.
Right.
And
Like
that-
'89.
And that hasn't happened since '89. And Dave, I don't know if you looked at the profile of the time trial, but it
Isn't
does.
that Lyon? The
well,
last stage?
into Nice.
Oh,
the
Lyon
last
to
one.
Nice? Oh,
Yep.
okay.
Yep. That's where it ends this year.
Oh, my goodness.
But it's got a little bit of punchy climbs to it.
Yeah,
I would
all
say
the
climbs,
all the
but
time trials
some
anymore in the major tours
rolling.
are all punchy. They're not flat time trials anymore. It's not Miguel Indurain style or, Contador or whatever.
But it's not starting in France either, though, is it?
No, it's starting in Bologna.
Right.
Florence.
Florence.
I thought it was Bologna. Oh, well, okay.
Which is not the first time they've done that, but it
Maybe it
is the
goes
first
to
time they
Bologna.
don't end in Paris.
In Nice. That the first time they didn't end in Paris.
Yeah,
And
so
they're ending in Nice.
They're ending in Nice, right?
Yep.
So a little bit of some changes there. So speculation, Dave. Who was the very first person to ever win the tour?
I don't know. Is it okay? Okay, Florence. Why did I say Bologna? Is that the next
Maurice
day?
Garin is his name.
Yeah, there we go. That's the next day is to Bologna.
So Dave, who's won the most? What countries won the most Tour de France's?
Probably France or maybe.
That would be France. That'd
And
be
then I
nice.
think second might be Belgium.
I think it's Spain actually.
Really?
Yeah, I think it's Spain,
Well, I mean,
and then it's Belgium.
what did Marks win? 4 tours or 5? I thought it was 5.
4 in a row, and then he won one more after that.
So there's Belgium with 5.
If you include
Rick Van Looy or
all
something.
Americans who have won the Tour de France, despite being rejected because of doping, how many American wins would there have been?
3.
Incorrect.
10.
11.
Oh, Floyd Landis.
There you go.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about good old Floyd.
Floyd.
Floyd Landis literally lost the Tour de France. You know why?
Well, he won the Tour de France and failed the test that day.
Do you know why he failed the test? He had a testosterone patch on, and he fell asleep. He fell asleep with it on. He was only supposed to have it on for like an hour. He fell asleep. It was on for like 5 hours. Dude lost the Tour de France because he napped it out. Fact.
That is something I did not know.
Google that one because it's true.
Do you remember the excuse the next day? Why he tested?
He was using a
I
steroid
don't-
cream or something like that.
No, because that's you can't.
Well, I get that. I understand the difference.
Well,
between-
and I guess I shouldn't say an excuse. I should say what did he say he did the night before?
Was it drink beer?
Jack Daniels.
Oh yeah, Jack Daniels will jack your testosterone up. Every redneck knows that. Come on, man. Every guy behind the wheel of a truck knows
absolutely.
that.
There may be some truth to that. I haven't actually seen the data.
I mean,
but
my dad was
I
a
would
Jim
be-
Beam guy. I think same effect.
I
but
would be willing to bet.
No way.
I would be willing to bet because I know that when I'm drinking single malts, I'm feeling a little.
That's
invincible
almost up
too.
there with what's his face's Chimera. What's his name? Tyler? Not Tyler. He was an American cyclist. What was his name?
I don't remember that
Taylor
one.
something.
Taylor Finney?
No, not Taylor Finney. Oh gosh, it'll come to me. Hang on. He had a Chimera.
So, other than the 11, how many actual wins does the United States represent in the long list of winners?
Well, I don't know what how many
3.
Tour de
3.
France?
And that was the famous
Greg LeMond.
Greg won 3.
Greg could have easily won 6 or 7 tours.
I think he could have. I think he did struggle a little bit after he got shot because he was in an hunting accident with his brother-in-law, and I think he did struggle a little bit after that. But it did penetrate.
Well, he could have won
lungs,
85.
so he damaged one of his lungs.
He could have won 85. Did win 86. Got shot in 87. Was still not up to par in 88. So let's say
But he won in 89.
He did win in 89. That would have been 5.
Yeah,
And then 90. That would be
Ooh,
6.
That could have been. He could have been that guy.
And Greg LeMond's the tail end of his career coincided with the introduction of
Lance Armstrong.
well, widespread doping really and EPO and
Yeah, because it
HGH
never
and-
happened before then.
They didn't have the pharmaceuticals. No, they did have that. They did have doping, but
They
it was
didn't have
most-
EPO. EPO was
No, it was
relatively new
totally
development.
game changer,
Yeah,
yeah.
it was an absolute game changer.
Yeah.
yeah. So if you watch that 30 for 30 special on Lance Armstrong, they get really into the EPO.
Oh, I'm sure they do. Another good one to watch is Icarus. Did you ever watch Icarus?
Love Icarus.
Yeah. So
Icarus. So
we're
any
getting
of our-
far afield from our Tour de France coverage.
Any
so.
of our listeners out there, you have to watch Icarus because it starts off about cycling, right? And then I would recommend. I'm going to check out the Badger when I get home tonight. I'm going to check that out. So find the title of that.
It's something about Le Mans versus the Badger. I'll look it up.
And then, of course, the one on Armstrong is actually pretty good. There's a couple other out there that are really good too.
So going back to the first tour, mileage,
I don't remember. It wasn't as long.
1,509 miles.
But think of those bikes too that they were riding in those days. I mean, that's
Those things weighed 30 pounds, if at least.
30 pounds if you cut them in half.
And they didn't really have, gears the way we do now.
Right.
Some of them were single speed, or they would have 2 gears or maybe 3, and you would have to manually change them, either by dismounting, or in some cases they had like a sliding apparatus that you could operate between your legs and change the gear in the back. Crazy stuff. Brakes were terrible.
So then in 1911 through 1928, it went up to 3,300 miles.
Wow.
They were in the late 10s, early 20s. They were 1,000 miles more than current tour.
And some of those stages lasted a long time, right?
Yeah.
Were they still going 23, 24 days?
21 days.
21 days? So
Yep.
they were still doing 21 stages?
Yep.
Yeah, okay. So, man, that's a huge increase.
Yeah.
Any reasoning behind that?
I don't know why it was so high back then, but
What is it today?
2,000 139
Miles or kilometers?
miles.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's still a lot, man. That's still a lot.
these guys, it's unbelievable what they do.
I agree. It's crazy.
Some of the wattages these guys are putting out on climbs for 45 minutes to an hour, average of 6 watts per kilo, upwards of 450 to 500 watts continuously for 45 minutes at a time.
I mean, it's amazing because when you look at cyclists and you look at their overall physique, they're thin. And you wonder, how are they storing that much glycogen? How are they actually getting to
Well,
it?
one of the things
It's incredible.
One of the things that has changed quite recently within the last 5-7 years is the amount of glycogen that they're taking on the bike per
That
hour.
wouldn't surprise me.
They're taking upwards of 100 grams of carbohydrates per hour, and that's mostly in drinks.
So that's 400 calories.
No, I think it's more like what?
100
six-
grams, a gram of carbohydrate is 4 calories.
I thought it was closer to 6 or 9. Maybe I'm wrong.
Alcohol is 9, Dave. That's probably why
Okay.
you're more related to that.
Yeah, well,
So it's still a fuel. It's still a fuel. So it's just a different type of fuel.
Yeah, they used to drink brandy in the original Tour de France.
Go look at the old photos. They're smoking cigarettes on the bike.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, I
Those are
mean,
great ones.
That just blows my mind. It's no different than watching the very first Super Bowl with the Jets or with the Chiefs quarterback in the first Super Bowl. When he's on the sidelines, he's smoking a cigarette in between downs. I mean, they just didn't know back then, but they just didn't know. So, but it's amazing that they could do 3,000 miles and light up. I mean, I haven't seen that much stamina since I was at a Dead show. I mean, that's pretty impressive.
Well, these guys they're drinking a lot of calories.
Yeah,
And
they're burning them right away, too.
They're training at altitude. That's the new thing. I mean, it has been for many, many years.
Well, yeah, because when you train at altitude, you increase your natural hemoglobin count.
Yeah, there's a lot of training effects that happen at altitude. Some guys can do it, some guys can't because their body just, it just doesn't respond, and so they can't do it.
And you're seeing a lot of the European riders come over to Colorado to train because of the altitude there.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I think Sagan was over in Utah.
Well, that's why we put our Olympic training centers, in Colorado for a reason.
Right?
Yeah.
So then we had the war years, and we didn't have any races for a couple of years there, obviously, for obvious reasons.
The war years, yeah. Right.
The war years, World War II.
1 and 2.
1 and 2.
Right.
Right. And then we got back into it. So when did you start to see some of the biggest changes that kind of represent more of the modern race today?
I think I saw it, shortly after Le Mans. I mean, they weren't wearing helmets then.
True.
And I mean, it was, Le Mans, like you said, what was his last win?
89. I believe.
89.
No, he won in 90.
But did he
Won
win
in
90?
90. Yep.
Okay.
So mid-90s when I started to see a difference kind of when Lance was in there. Jan Ulrich, some of those guys. So I think that's where I started to notice change. Dave, where did you see it?
Well, I mean, think about what Le Mans did in '89 with the aerodynamics. I remember seeing an analysis.
I remember that bike.
in
That
Velo
was
News.
sick.
Well, it wasn't just the bike; it was the Scott handlebars, which previously you'd only seen in triathlons. And so Scott, what was his name? Dave Scott. Dave Scott had his own line of bikes and his own line of tri-gear to include, really crazy looking handlebars that came out, almost put you in like a skier's tuck. And they talked about it that way. So Lamond used the new Scott clip-on bars. He used a Giro aerodynamic helmet,
I remember that.
and he also used a disc wheel.
The disc wheel.
Le Mans did?
I thought Lamond had a disc wheel in the back.
Because really, discs just started being used in the Tour within the last 3 or 4 years, didn't it?
No.
For the majority of them?
Oh no, there were early iterations of disc wheels.
Yeah, I remember seeing some back then and thinking, wow, I'd love to put that on my Bianchi. And I was like, then I looked at the price. I'm like, I guess I'm going to keep loving to put that on my Bianchi, but it ain't going to happen. Because they were expensive in that time.
But I thought they were still using quite a few rim brakes even in the 2000.
Oh no, disc wheel as in a solid
I'm
disc
sorry.
wheel. Yeah,
Yep,
not
yep,
disc
yep,
brakes.
yep, okay.
No. So here's a picture of it. I think this is a picture from, well, that's not the tour because that's a different one. But
and I'm hoping that
here he
all of
is.
our listeners are getting
Here's
a good look
his
at this
picture right
picture
here.
because I think that's what really counts, Dave.
Yeah, no, it's cool. I'm just showing Troy. That's a picture from
Okay. Yep.
the 89 tour right there.
It is an amazing picture. So if you want to Google it,
Yeah, if you can Google it, just Google Le Mans TT bike.
Le Mans TT bike.
There you go.
Yeah.
You'll get it.
That was a sick bike.
It was pretty cool.
It is a
yeah.
beautiful picture, and I'm glad.
But
Dave
they
brought that
did.
up for all of us to
I remember
witness.
seeing an analysis, and if Fignon had done one thing differently, he could have won because he lost by what was it, 8 seconds, something like that.
It was tight.
It was very tight. So if Fignon, not even if he had just worn a helmet, because he didn't even wear a helmet. If he had just clipped his ponytail, that ponytail literally cost him those seconds. And that's that's what it came down
Samson
to.
said, "Delilah, you cut off my hair." So that's one of my favorite Dead references. So, so here's what we're gonna do, folks. We're gonna take a quick commercial break, and then we're gonna come back and continue our talk with Troy and Dave and myself. And so let's do that, and we'll be back in a flash. All right, we're gonna take a second here to give a shout out to our sponsor, The Bikeway. For a quarter century, the Bikeway has been the premier destination for all things cycling in Omaha and beyond, with a legacy of passion, dedication, and community. Discover the latest and greatest from top brands like Giant, Liv, Transition, Santa Cruz, Scott, Bianchi, Sunday BMX, and DK. We've got the perfect ride to fuel your adventure. More than just a shop, explore our extensive selection of apparel and accessories. And the Bikeway Certified Service Department has you covered, from basic maintenance to suspension work, to custom builds, and everything in between. And while you're here, treat yourself to a delicious cup of coffee. As a rider-owned and operated establishment, you can trust that we're dedicated to providing the best possible experience for fellow enthusiasts like you. So join us at the Bikeway, where every ride is an adventure. Here's to 25 years of riding together and many, many more. All right, and we are back, everybody. Thanks for that commercial break from the Bikeway. So we've talked about the history of the Tour de France, and now we're going to get into this year's race, the 2024 race, which is a little bit unique. Just for anyone out there interested, it is going to be live. You can probably see it through NBC Sports or Peacock. There is a 7-hour time difference between Omaha, Nebraska, and the start, which is starting in Monaco this year. And it's going to end in Nice. So you're still in a 6 to 7 hour time frame.
No, it's starting in Florence, Florence, Italy.
It's starting in Florence, Italy.
And the last stage will start in Monaco, I think.
Monaco to Nice is the last.
Oh, it's the last-
20
Yeah, the
21
last
stage.
stage.
Okay,
which
so
is
it is
which
starting
is a
in
time
Florence.
trial this year, which is going to be crazy.
Yeah, that will be. Okay, so it starts this Saturday. They're 7 hours ahead of us there. So 5 a.m., and it'll be live. So, if you want to wake up and do that, by all means do.
It's the best thing you can do, besides training on your bike.
Not at 5 o'clock in the morning.
Yes, it is.
It just depends if my wife's awake.
No.
All right, so let's talk about 2024 Tour de France.
Tour de France.
France.
Well, the biggest news that came out this week, I think, is that Sepp Kuss, the super domestique, as they call him, is out of the race due to COVID that he got at Tour of Flanders. So for Jumbo, or I guess it's not Jumbo anymore, Visma, rent a bike, that is a big hit to their team.
Yeah.
Sepp Kuss is from Colorado. He won the
Durango.
Vuelta last year. Yeah. Super cool guy, great climber. Could probably have won the Tour de France himself.
France.
Tour de France. Tour de France. The Tour de France,
Tour
as
de
Bob Roll
France.
calls it, is the best.
So if he is out, and this is confirmed,
This
yeah.
is confirmed.
Yeah.
He is off the list.
oof. And so who's next? I mean,
So they brought in a guy by the name of Lemon that they say is going to be able to fill his shoes, but I don't foresee that happening. I mean, Sepp Kuss is Jonas Vingegaard's right-hand man for the last 2
He
years.
still has Matteo Jorgensen, so that's also, and he's, I isn't he also an American too?
Yes, Mateo is an American
And
who
he's
won the
super
Tour.
good climber tour, right?
He won the Tour of Swiss this year.
Yeah, the Tour de Suisse, he won that. That was pretty cool. That was like
Okay.
2 weeks ago. And well, no, didn't he? He finished second, I think, to Roglic, right?
No, he won.
So okay, all right.
How do you go 2 weeks later from that?
Well,
to
it wasn't. Maybe it wasn't the Tour of Swiss.
Tour de Romandy.
It was one of the early tours. That's a
Okay.
7-day tour. It's
Okay.
not a grand tour.
Okay.
It's a 7-day tour. But that was a big surprise. I mean, Mateo's he had a high spot last year, a little bit in the tour, or was it 2 years ago when he was riding for Movistar? But he's an up and comer. I was shocked at the win that he had this year. So he's going to be, the guy that's going to be pulling Vinigo up the mountains.
Wow.
But the whole dynamic of that team has changed because last year you had Sepp Kuss, you had Primoz, and you had Vinigo. All three which won a Grand Tour last year.
Pretty solid.
So the whole dynamics of that team has changed.
Yeah.
Like anything else, FDR, you develop trust in your domestique. And
Well, their whole train was insane. They'd
And-
have 5 guys going up a mountain, and the entire peloton is strung out behind them.
And Dave definitely develops trust with his Dominic.
Domestiques.
Was it
Domestiques, yeah.
Domestiques?
Yeah.
Okay. And they probably have safe words too, like go ahead and pass. And,
I think we're talking about different things.
Yeah.
No, but Jumbo last year, they rode Pogačar off their wheel. They literally rode him out of the Tour de France.
They attacked him between Primoz and Vinigo. They kept attacking him. And he said the next day, I made a mistake. I shouldn't have let that happen.
So how do explain that for someone who isn't familiar with, the concept of attack, how the team runs an attack.
These weren't really attacks per se, in that you like go out and do like a bunch of other, everyone's going at a certain pace and then you attack, you do like 200 more watts. It wasn't that. They established a fierce pace going up these climbs. And, they just rode Pogačar off the wheel.
But
That was 2 years ago.
2 years ago, Vinigo and Roglic went after Pogačar.
Yeah, and that was a little bit of a tag team action right there.
But when that year was an attack, wouldn't you call that an attack since they were kind of going back and forth?
That. Yeah, you might call that
Because
an attack.
Pogačar tried to keep Vinigo's wheel, then Roglic went, and he would try and go after his wheel.
Yeah.
And they just buried him into the ground.
And last year was that crazy time trial, that uphill time trial, where Vingegaard beats Pogačar by almost 2 minutes.
That was crazy.
It was such an unbelievable performance that people started using the D word again. So,
Wow.
No, I don't think anybody, including myself, expected the
Oh,
time
no.
trial to have that separation from Pogačar.
everybody was talking about how much time would Vingegaard lose to Pogačar, and Pogačar ended up losing a minute 38. So listen, the guy's vulnerable. I mean, he's the new Merckx. He can do it all. He can win in the Ardennes. He can win in monuments. He's won Tour de Lombardia twice. He's won in Flanders, and he's won the Tour de France twice. He can do it all, but he can't do it all year long, and that's the thing. He's already won the Giro. It was a fairly easy Giro, if you can call a Giro easy. He didn't have
So
to extend
you
himself
say-
badly
Over 9-minute separation from second place.
in the Giro. Yeah,
Yep,
Pogačar
and if
just steamrolled the whole thing.
If you look at the last 11 to 12 years, I think the biggest time spread was right around a minute. Maybe
Something like that.
Minute and a half.
And nothing this close. And then Pogačar ended up winning, 5 stages of this Giro?
Yeah, I mean,
It's just crazy.
every hill. And
Yeah.
the scary part right now is that he says he feels the best on the bike he's ever felt.
Yeah, but it was just revealed 2 hours ago that 10 days ago he had the vid.
So
But you-
The
that
vid is going
gonna,
around again.
Again, will change the outlook of the tour, the scenery and what's going to happen.
I think we're probably going to see a handful of people leave the tour this year because of COVID. There's already a couple that aren't going, like Kuss.
Well, let's step back for a second because you said that he's the new Merckx.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
And I always want to be cautious about things like that because when we talk about Eddie, you're talking about a guy who literally he's got 11 Grand Tours, right? He's got 5 Tour de France's, 5 Euros. He's got all 5 monuments. He's set the hour record. He's got world championships, every major one-day race other than the Paris Tours. I mean, the guy is considered one of the greatest champions of all time. So when people
Absolutely.
say,
He's
kinda
probably the GOAT.
It's like when people, he's clearly a GOAT. I mean, but when someone's like, oh, it's the LeBron Jordan argument over and over again, right? Okay, so you have those arguments. But can you compare? I mean,
You can't really compare, and I'll tell you why. Pogacar might be better. And I'll tell you why.
Take someone like that, but then also you take into account the new technology, the new training. I mean,
sure, but everyone has that. Everyone now has that kind of advantage. Now, there's some marginal gains, like Ineos Grenadiers. I always talk about their marginal gains, and everyone's looking for an edge. Jumbo Lisa Bike just had the UCI come out and tell them they can't use their new Batmobile, which was like a communications van that was going to be like up to the second information relayed to their riders. And the UCI just came by and said, no, I don't think so.
It's good to be the king.
There's new telecommunications equipment that's going to be tested. There's all kinds of stuff. But Pogacar might be better than Merckx, and I'll tell you why. Everybody in this pro peloton today and for the last 10, 20 years is fully committed as a professional and has a full administration of staff and trainers, you name it, all the time, 365 days a year. In Merck's day, there were a lot of kind of semi-pro guys that, they were professional racers, yeah, but they weren't professional racers all year long. They didn't train all year long, So it's comparing 2 different eras, and honestly, Pogacar as a cyclist might actually be better. He can time trial.
Troy, your
he
thoughts
can
on
climb.
that?
Don't you think, though, that he has a little bit more to prove before
Oh,
people go
absolutely,
out there and
sure,
say that he
sure.
is the best?
Well, it's still young. What is the guy?
Oh, yeah.
This is the first year he cannot qualify for the best young riders jersey, which I think is under 24, or is it 26?
Under 25.
Under 25. Okay, so he's 25.
Yeah. No, and I think he's a great cyclist and just a great rider in general.
Yeah.
And the thing they say about him, which I really like, is he's the guy that loves to get on the bike and ride.
Yeah, and he's a likable guy, very, very nice person, does great interviews, isn't snarky or anything. He's a very likable guy.
So he'd probably be a good co-host.
Complete
for me
opposite, of some people that we know.
True, let's look that guy up and see if he's interested in coming and doing this with us.
You could probably get Pogacar. Not next week, but he's busy.
He's
so.
probably,
He's getting
his schedule's probably a little busy. Yeah, I agree.
So that was some big news, but
Okay.
This is the 111th Tour de France this year.
111th birthday, huh? There we go.
First time not finishing, which we talked about earlier, not finishing in Paris. The other thing, Remco Evenepoel, who has really proven himself as a good rider. He hasn't been as successful as Pogacar yet, but this is his first
He's
tour.
been world champ.
He's been world champ.
He's been TT world champ, road world champ. So
And he's
not
been a
bad
Grand Tour
Palmares.
winner.
And a Grand Tour winner.
And so he is really focused, in my opinion. He wants this race just like everybody.
And his team, Soudal Quickstep, they're all in. Didn't bring a sprinter this year, which is crazy because they have one of the best, Tim Merlier. I mean, Merlier's won stages in the Tour de France, and he's won classics this year. He's on form. So for them to leave him home is a total indication of where Soudal Quickstep, Evenepoel's team, where their head is at. There are 4 teams this year that could legitimately win this Tour de France.
Wow.
Pogacar's UAE team, Vingegaard's Jumbo Lisa Bike team, Soudal Quickstep, and Bora Hansgrohe with Roglic.
So let me ask you a quick question. How do these teams form? I mean, how do they like? Hey, Troy, you want to ride with me? I mean, how does that? I mean, obviously, I didn't ask Dave, but I was, how do they do that?
They're trying to look for riders when they're 12, 13, 14 years old and try and develop them and see if they're going to become that next massive world tour rider that they're looking for. And so that's, in my opinion,
And the
FDR,
tour has a youth race too, right? When they're doing it with Don't they have a younger group categories of racers?
There are for some of the classics.
Okay.
Classic races. Like there's a U23 Paris-Roubaix, for example.
Okay.
And that's what, in my opinion, FDR, your input on this, that's what it makes American riders it makes it harder to get over there on a European team because
Absolutely.
because we don't have the structure
We do not.
in the United States. And so when we're sending people over there like Matteo Jorgensen and Quinn Simmons and Sepp Kuss, those guys are good. I mean,
Okay.
if you Nielsen
And they're all from
Paulus,
Colorado.
Yeah.
Which does, if you've been to Colorado, and I've raced there, it's crazy. You go there and there's like 200 kid racers from, 6, 7, 8 years old all the way up to, 14, 15, 16. And the 16-year-olds will whip you. Like the output these guys can put in. And so these European teams know they can come over here and look at these kids and they can get some metrics off the Strava or whatever, or just have them do a sit down and do some testing and see that these guys have potential.
So, I mean, there's major marketing going on in this.
There's so many dollars in here, it's crazy.
Exactly. So why isn't some corporation saying, hey, let's take some of these boys from Colorado and put
They
them on
are.
a team and
Well-
see what we can do internationally?
well, since Lance Armstrong, we're seeing more and more of them all the time. There's more Americans now than there has been for
That
a
is true.
long, long time.
Absolutely. I think there's, 8 or 10 in this year's tour?
Yeah.
There's a lot.
There's a lot, and there's a lot of Americans that aren't in the tour, that are on these professional teams in Europe. So you're seeing more and more of them, and they're real. I mean, with Sepp last year in the Vuelta, Matteo this year winning the 7-day race.
I think it was Paris-Nice. Did he win that?
Was that what it was? Which is
I just looked it up. I
which
think
is
it
a
was
pretty
Paris-Nice.
stellar race. I mean,
Yeah, Sean Kelly won that a couple times.
so you're seeing more and more Americans, and they're starting to look at us more and more.
Okay. All right. Well, that's legit.
And I will say this. There's a lot of parents in the United States when their kid says, hey, I want to go cycling, they look at them like, no, basketball, football, baseball.
I'm familiar
And-
with that. Yes.
Yep. And that's somewhat a deterrent from the parents.
Well, and that's our traditional sports here. We see that, the baseball, the basketball, the football. We have tennis and golfers, galore. But we start getting into some of the other sports that are more international.
And that's
like
a good
cycling.
example, too, because parents will start their kids young in those two sports in this country, and gymnastics, too. But cycling, it's just not on the radar, man. And I think we're missing a lot of Sepp Kusses and Matteo Jorgensen's out there, and Taylor Finney's. I mean, it's sad what happened to Taylor Finney. Guy could have been.
But if you think about it, some of these guys that ride, right, from the States, they're getting into it, and it's not as popular as some of the glamour sports in the States.
And they're getting into it later. That's the big deal.
True. But the data will tell you that the multi-sport athlete actually performs better over time than someone who specializes at a younger age. But you get these kids who are riding and they're working their way up. Do you think that it's because they just have such a true passion? Where if you start someone at 6 years old, 7 years old doing it, what's the burnout rate? If that's all they're doing, do you think that has a component to it? That these guys are riding because they're just, they just that's what they love. It is life. Riding is life.
I don't think you can be a professional rider in Europe without loving riding your bike. Now,
You can't even be a good amateur.
I will say that today, Pogača, he's different. He's a little bit even above the normal person. They all love to ride their bike, but from everything I've seen read, Pogača that's what he loves to do.
Have you ever heard of Mbappe?
Mbappe, the French soccer player that has to wear the mask now because his nose is broke?
Yes.
Right.
You know what one of his favorite things to do is? Downhill skiing. And his contracts won't allow it.
Really?
No, he said the first thing I do when I retire is I'm going to go skiing.
Downhill skiing is how our buddy Greg
worried about
Lamont
his
got
knees.
into the sport. He was a big time downhill skier.
So, but the athleticism that they develop, the neural pathways that they develop by playing multiple sports actually makes them better athletes.
Remco Evenepoel was on a soccer track. He was headed toward the Belgian national team, and he, at 14, decided to focus, or maybe it was later, he still rode, because everybody in Belgium has to ride a bike or else they kick you out of Belgium. But he started, focusing on cycling relatively late.
Yeah.
But
There's a guy in Omaha his name's Mick
generational
Doyle.
talent.
And he's an MMA guy, right? He had an opportunity to play professional football, soccer over in Europe. Got into MMA and mixed martial arts, and then he was a sparring partner for Conor McGregor. But his buddy.
I think I'd
Played
rather play
professional.
soccer than get punched in the face by Conor McGregor.
Yeah, I agree.
It's really not.
But then again, climbing the
On
hills
my-
like that is almost like getting punched in the face with what these guys are going to be doing coming up.
you talk about heart and desire and loving the bike. That's when it really comes into play. These guys are pushing north of 6 watts a kilo on these climbs for 45 minutes to an hour. It's nearly inhuman.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. So let's talk about some of these stages. So what do you think are going to be some of the more difficult stages?
Well, the first stage that I'm looking at is stage 9, and that starts in Troyes and ends in Troyes, which it's
I
not.
don't think you can say that on the air.
Okay. It is spelled Troyes, pronounced Troyes. And they don't do a lot of
It's French.
out and back. This stage is, I don't know the exact key mileage on it, but it is 35 kilometers of gravel roads, which is the largest gravel road that they've had in the tour.
By far.
And it goes through the region of Champagne. So you're going to be riding through like the greatest wine vineyards in the world.
But you can't stop and drink. So what's the point?
You can.
Spectators can.
Probably not recommended for the riders.
And how many kilometers is it? Did you say 31?
35 kilometers of gravel.
Oof.
Yeah, there's already been a lot of talk about
that's
equipment.
21.7, almost 22 miles of gravel.
So it is
Somewhere in there,
199 kilometers, 32 of which is gravel roads.
Wow.
And
That's
I
a
watched
decent stage.
the climbs are on the gravel, and I watched a couple guys that rode it and did a podcast about it, and it just looks fun.
Is that new?
Yes.
They started introducing gravel stages at like the Tour of Italy and other places, the Tour de France. It's got mixed results. Some teams don't like it at all because it's too easy to have your guy go down and your tour is over. Also on these gravel roads, the team cars really can't follow you. There's a lot of dust.
Yeah.
They might not even have team cars go. I don't know exactly, but they might not even have the team cars go on this road. They might just go on but for 30 miles. Is it continuous or just total?
Continuous.
21.7 miles.
Then they will be. It'll be crazy.
And the roads I saw were very narrow. Not as narrow, the cobblestones.
They're
the
probably
nine
the roads that
stage.
go through the vineyards.
Yeah, so when they were riding, they were doing their podcast, and there were tractors going down the road.
Yeah, really small
And-
tractors.
So they are narrow roads.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, that's going to be crazy.
After that, what other crazy stage kind of caught your eye?
I guess. Well, so let's go to one area, and then if we may go back,
Sure.
because it goes into that. Mark Cavendish is coming back this year, which everyone said that he was going to retire and he's done, but he wants to beat Eddie Merckx. They both have 34 stage wins in the tour. So he is going for 35.
Okay.
So they are going from Garvey-Chambertin, which is also a wine region in France, in Burgundy, to Dijon, which is the mustard.
Where the mustard is.
Yep.
Such good mustard.
But I kind of looked at that one as, he only needs to win one. And I looked at that as one of the stages where I could see Cavendish really doesn't like any type of climb, so the flatter the better for him. And this
Well,
is
no sprinter likes climbs. No,
Right.
none.
But Walt Van Aert. Anyway,
Yeah, but he's like no disrespect, but he's a second tier sprinter. There's 8 guys that you can name right now that could beat him every single time.
4 people in the history of the tour have won a hill climb, a time trial, and a
sprint stage.
sprint stage, and one of them is Walt Van Aert. Anyway.
No, I get it. He's not bad.
Yep. No, he is good. Not his first discipline. But I really see that stage as one that probably Cavendish has on his books.
Okay.
I don't know, FDR thoughts?
Yeah, it's going to be tough. I love Cav like crazy. I thought he was winning that stage last year. Then his gear started messing up. I literally cried because I was so distraught. It'd be great. Mark Cavendish is far and away the best sprinter that professional cycling has ever had on the road.
Can we also say the dirtiest?
No, I don't think so. There's dirtier guys out there.
Well, hang on a second.
Jasper Philipsen is.
We have a little bit of contention in this argument, and I'd like to play it out.
Okay.
You think he's dirty?
He would have his 35th win right now if he wouldn't have headbutted somebody. Is it 2 years ago in the opening stage, first stage of the tour? And it was going to his hometown, and he wanted to win it so bad that he headbutted someone.
Was he DQ'd that day?
Nope, crashed, broke his collarbone.
So he butted him while they were riding.
I have seen him headbutt
Look,
multiple people.
I've seen 100 sprinters, quote, headbutt people. It's not a headbutt per se. You just, listen, I used to have a friend who used to do it for a joke all the time to me, and he was really good at it.
Okay, your friends and my friends are clearly different.
Different friends. No, you kind of lean your head over and you put it on that guy's shoulder, and if you do it right, you can't come around that guy. It's impossible. So that's
a clean sprint?
Look, man, you have they all do it. Now, listen, there's commissaries.
Speaking of they all do it, Lance Armstrong has
sprinter.
7 Tour de France's.
Go look this up when you get home. The kids right now listening, Dmitry Abdu-Japarov, can't spell it, I can barely say it. The terror of Tashkent. This guy was the dirtiest sprinter I've ever seen. Go look at the videos. It's crazy. He would crash people out, and they'd end up bloody in the streets, and sometimes he'd end up bloody in the streets. But nobody messed with him. Dmitry Abdu-Japarov, craziest, dirtiest sprinter I've ever seen. So, also, I don't think Jasper Philipsen is anywhere near Abdu-Japarov level of dirty, but he's not really clean.
So he's going to go for his 36th win?
35th. Record breaking.
Sometimes like when you see some of these old guys come back in and they kind of, to get a record, everybody kind of eases off and lets them have their record. You think that's going to happen?
Oh, my God, are you insane?
No. That's debatable, but my question is, it's a legitimate question because I've seen it happen in other sports.
I don't think you can see it in this sport.
That'd be like asking the Dallas Mavericks to let the Celtics win. It did no. N-N-O. No.
Okay.
Plus the prestige alone for winning a Tour de France stage is insane. It'll make your entire career.
Was it like 10,000 euro
that's
per
not
stage?
That's nothing.
No, I get that, but I'm just simply saying it's...
So the total purse this year is 2.3 million euros. To win the race is 500,000 euros.
Okay.
So I'm not sure what stage wins, but going back to your original question, the speeds they're carrying up to the line in a sprint, you can't let anybody win.
Oh, God, no.
I mean,
there's 200 guys.
And it's 400,000 euros to win?
500.
It's 500,000 euros. Well, hang on a second. I'm going to do the math real quick.
What's the dollar euro right now?
The dollar, that's basically $535,183. That's the conversion.
He'll spread that out among his team. He probably won't even keep that.
So we're looking at basically €1 is equal to $1.07 based on current market exchange today.
Dave, these finishing speeds in these sprints approach 40 miles an hour.
I do math.
And there's 20 or 30 guys in the front 2 rows that anybody who isn't going all out 150 million%, and that's like math, they're going to get swamped.
And with 1,000 kilometers to go, the person that's going to win the race is not at the front of the race. He is probably 6th to 10th wheel FDR.
Yeah, easily. Now, they've extended. It used to be that in order to make the finishes,
it's based
safer,
on time, right?
It's based on time. But the UCI instigated a rule several years ago, probably about 20, 25 years ago, the kilometer to go rule. In other words, if there was a crash or something like that, and you were in the group with a kilometer to go, then you got the same finishing time. A couple of years ago, as the speeds got higher and higher, as the bike technology got better, they moved it out to 2K, and now it's 3K, and they're going to maybe revisit that and make it 5K.
Do you like that rule?
You have to have that rule, otherwise the overall contenders have to stick their nose in there in the top 20, because you can get some separation and you can lose some seconds. So
And if I'm the last guy on a team too, I could take you out.
Well,
If it's getting close, right?
Yeah.
You're talking about the terror of wherever.
Terror of Tashkent Abdu-Japarov. Crazy.
Yeah.
spin.
So I mean, I can't rule it out. I mean, other than the EPO, the testosterone, the doping, the blood transfusions, it's a very honorable sport. So
there's few sports where you actually work in cooperation with your rivals on the day. You'll be in a breakaway with 10 guys, and you'll know that if we don't all work and work equally, we're not going to make it to the finish. Probably not going to make it to the finish anyway, but you're going to get caught a lot sooner. So you work with these guys, and they're all on different teams. Okay. And then 2 or 3K to go, then they start eyeballing each other and looking at the win. But, for that first 100K of the breakaway, they're all in it together.
And you think about that.
And they're like teammates. It's crazy.
You think about that. And I've said this, the sportsmanship, the humanity aspect of it. If you took everybody you could and you had them hold hands around the entire equator of the world, over half would drown. So, I mean, from that perspective, you think, you never know what's going to happen.
It's a unique sport because you can literally die doing it in the normal course of events. And that's happened last year with Gino Mater. He died in the Tour de Suisse. And, there have been other high-profile deaths in the sport.
Speaking of which, so how many people actually died during the Tour de France?
Tommy Simpson died there in 68.
The Italian
67.
In 98.
95.
95.
Fabio.
Oh, yeah, he was on Motorola.
Mm-hmm.
He went off
He was
course
descending.
Right.
And he was like 55 miles an hour, and he died. So we've had 4 riders die, but we've had 7 other people actually die at the race.
Oh.
Yeah. Huh. Have you ever heard of the TT race on the Isle of Man?
Yes,
it's
of
a
course.
motorcycle
That's
race.
Infamous.
Every single year, somebody dies, whether it's a rider or a spectator.
Yeah.
Every single they've
it's
had
crazy
basically one
that they
person
still
die.
have that the way they do.
I've been to the Isle of Man, and I'm telling you, I can't believe that they even.
I'd
ride
love to go.
motorcycles.
It'd be
Oh, it's
cool.
amazing. But yeah, so 34 motorcyclist. The last spectator to die was in 2009.
At the Isle of Man, you're talking about.
No. At the Tour de France.
Oh, Tour de France.
Yeah, in 2009, it was July 18th. I'm actually reading this. I'm not actually recalling that from memory. I'm sharp, but I'm not that sharp. I'm sharp like
What'd they die of?
Struck and killed by a police motorcycle while crossing a road along the route.
Yeah, man, French cops don't care.
Yeah. They don't,
And then
I'm just kidding, French cops. Don't come over here.
Going back to some of the stages, stage 15 starts the Pyrenees. You've got 2 hard days of climbing.
Is it Pyrenees before Alps this year?
Yep.
Oh, that's...
No, after 15, stage 15. So 15, 16.
So Alps, then Pyrenees.
Yep.
Okay.
15, 16, and then you got some rollers. And I really think that probably this year, those time trials are going to have a big impact on the overall winner, especially going into the last day when you look at this time trial.
Well, wouldn't that be something if there's a couple riders within 30 seconds of each other? And the way it's shaken out, it could.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it could very well be within 30
I mean, I thought
seconds.
Pogacar was going to walk away with it, even having won the Giro. But, dude, he had COVID 10 days ago. These other guys had broken ribs back in April, other problems. Evenepoel injured, Vingegaard injured, Roglic injured, Pogacar with the COVID.
Right.
But, some of these teams, like Pogacar's team, he's got 2 guys that could win it.
Right.
Straight out. There's another guy on Jorgensen, if anybody falters, or a couple guys. Evenepoel could win it. There's like 4 or 5 teams that have decent chances of winning this thing. And Evenepoel's a good time trialist. He's the world champ. right now.
So UAA, other than Pogača,
Is it Ayuso?
has Ayuso, Almeida,
Oh, yeah.
Nels,
Paulette?
yep, Mark Soler,
Oh, Solari. Jeez.
or Soler, and then Adam Yates.
Yeah, I mean, this is like literally the night whatever Yankees murderers row. You know what I mean?
If you took Pogača out of this mix, they still are a front-running team, in my opinion, with the other five guys on the team.
I mean, right now, I'll tell you they're going to win the team classification, which is crazy.
I don't see how they can't.
Yeah, of course they will. I mean, they'd all have to go down.
All right, so for all you betting people out there right now, in the event, if you put money down on that, I don't know what the odds are or the over-under is. If you put money on that and you end up losing, that's FDR, okay? So you are to blame him. Go ahead and send us a email to info@thebikeway.com, and we will send you a sticker, and we will punch Dave right in the jewels.
It's going to be one of those frowny face stickers because you're a loser. That's what it's going to be.
Yeah, but you just lost them money because
I
your
didn't lose
prediction.
it. No, what was my prediction? What did I say?
You just said it's inevitable that they're going to win.
UAE is going to win the team classification. That's not saying they're going to win the Tour de France.
So everybody out there knows we actually have a studio that's actually in a bike shop talking about bikes, which is kind of cool. But Dave's crystal ball is kind of in front of him right now, so I can't actually get a good look at his face to see if he's telling me the truth or not, because he's predicting the future. So I'm assuming that the crystal ball...
Do you know what the team classification is?
No, Dave. I'm dying for you to tell me, though.
Well, Seth's going to tell you right now. So, or not Seth.
No, Seth is his son.
I know, my bad.
By the way, Seth, just so you know, we're still upset about you not finishing that sprint. So you need to call in because you've been getting a lot of harassment here. So we might have to call you in and
That's
have you...
pronounced harassment because you're a soccer coach. You have to say,
yeah.
Okay.
Harassment.
Well, team classification goes to how many guys you have finished, and they get points for each position.
Isn't it
they're
the top
in.
5 or something?
I believe it was top 5. And so wherever your riders finish, top 5, you get points for the team classification. Then there's the yellow jersey classification, which is the overall GC winner.
Individual.
You have a green jersey, which is the sprinter's jersey. You have a polka dot, which is hill climber, king of the mountain jersey. You have a white jersey, which is youngest rider.
Best young rider under 25.
Under 25. And I believe that's it, FDR, isn't it?
Well, there's a Lanterne Rouge, which you get a red number plate for being the guy in last place, which, believe it or not, guys used to try to win that. And they kind of still do. They try to be the Lanterne Rouge, which is tricky because you can't lose too much time, because if you go beyond the time cutout for a cutoff for an individual stage, you're out.
Oh.
So you can only lose so much time every stage.
And that's where a lot of sprinters
Yes.
get taken out of the tour, is because they don't make that time cutoff on the hill climbs.
Ah, interesting.
Very, very. Those guys are in a bad way because they're not good at climbing. They're heavy. They're big boned. Like literally, they have thick bones. These guys, the sprinters, and a lot of muscle. And so they're doing FTP going up these hills, but they could be as far back as 30, 40 minutes or whatever.
Right.
I mean, usually 20. That's about the cutoff for an individual stage.
Okay.
UAE has gotten in the best position right now, depending on if they lose anybody. But Visma, UAE is really the team battle, I think, this year, because even
I don't know,
Visma
man.
has some really solid riders.
I think this just kind of tilted toward Remco just now, because Pogača's going to be tired from the Euro, okay? And he just had COVID like 10 days ago. Everyone's pretending like it's not a big deal, especially him. What else are you going to do?
EPO.
Well, no, not that. What else? What else are you going to do as far as
Okay,
pretending that everything's cool?
Right.
Like we do when you walk in the door, Dave.
Exactly.
Yeah.
One
We pick up the wrenches and start doing
I
fiddly
know,
diddly.
but once again, you've mistaken me for someone who cares what you think. So
1 week out from the tour, and we've got 2 major upsets that are going to change the dynamics of the tour.
Yeah, that's true.
With Sepp Kuss, not as a winner, but a domestique, and then Pogača, if he can't heal fast enough, which we know some people come back from it sooner than others.
Well, we're talking, 24 hours, 36 hours right now? Because it starts Saturday.
yeah.
So bingo. there we go.
Well, I'll tell you what. Here's what I suggest. I suggest that we watch the tour, we take some good notes, and then once the tour is over, I would suggest we all come back and we discuss what the surprises are. We now have Dave on the record for saying who he automatically thinks is going to win the team, and so we want to be able to hold that against him if he's wrong.
Well, and one person we haven't talked about is Primoz. This
Yeah,
is a
that's
race
true.
that he wants to win. And he knew when he was on Visma, he didn't get that opportunity, and that's why he left last year, is because Vinigo is their tour guy.
He had the chance 4 years ago. He was winning the tour, and then Pogačar came and did the time trial of everyone's life. It did it with no metrics, no heart rate, no computer. He just went completely balls out, and he took back the 34 seconds and got some more. And that's how Pogačar won his first Tour de France.
And that's why the 2 time trials this year is even going to be more important to the overall winner.
Yeah, but you got to like Remco's chances there because he is the world champ.
Yeah, he is.
Okay. There we have it, everybody. So here's what we're going to do. I want to thank Troy very much for coming out and talking to us about that. Troy, I think you brought some great information.
Thanks for having me.
It was
man.
a great topic.
Fun
I know
time,
we're
Troy.
all looking forward to this. FDR, as always, this is one of the things I know he loves immensely. So I thought this was a great conversation to have with people and let our listeners hear about what to expect coming up in the 24 Tour de France. But I want to thank you very much. Anything you want to close with on the tour?
I'd say thank you. It was a lot of fun. I love talking about Grand Tours and cycling in general.
All right. Well, when it's over, let's come back and let's talk
that'll
about
be
the
fun.
highlight and kind of go over it again and have a little bit more fun talking about what happened and maybe what we can see coming in the future. So, everybody, I want to say thank you very much for coming out to us. I am your co-host, Dave, and with my other co-host,
Also, Dave.
and we want to thank you. Stay tuned. We got more episodes coming to you guys in the future. Follow up with us. Lock in. Watch the tour. Starts on Saturday. Until then, everybody, stay safe. Keep riding.
Peace.